Okay, this video is a book report of the book called Pinocchio by Carlo Collodi from Italy. And this cover right here is the best version of the book because the artist Roberto Innocenti, his drawings are just fantastic. He's a great artist. Okay, anyways, I'll show you the best audiobook on the next slide. Pinocchio is basically the puppet created by Geppetto. His father's Geppetto. The cricket, the talking cricket in the movie is called Jiminy Cricket. The movie's not exactly the same as the book. The movie is actually very good, though. It was made in 1940 by Walt Disney. That's back when Walt Disney used to be good. Now, the modern Walt Disney is the evil, satanic company. But it used to be good, back when it was run by Walt Disney and it was Christian. Nowadays, it's evil. Okay, the blue-haired lady is sort of symbolically like his mother, his fairy godmother, or sort of karma in general of the universe. Jiminy Cricket's also perceived as his conscience. His initials, JC, are like Jesus Christ. The irresponsible boy. He's an irresponsible boy, which is a typical boy who ignores his father, ignores his parents, doesn't get his education, hangs around with the wrong kids, gets into mischief, kind of becomes, a donkey, a jackass. But you love Pinocchio. He's always good. I mean, even though he constantly is irresponsible, he loves Geppetto. He loves the blue-haired fairy godmother. And you can't help loving Pinocchio, his enthusiasm. I have friends from Italy, and they absolutely love Pinocchio. I mean, just like off the charts, they love him, and I totally understand why. I feel the same way about him. Like the Hispanics, they love Don Quixote. Okay, so he redeems himself by asking for forgiveness, showing his love for Geppetto and the blue-haired lady. And when I describe it, it's almost, I can't say how good it was. It's the putting it together, the pieces of the whole, and his goal at the end is to become a real boy. It's a fantastic thing. Every single person should read this in school. Instead of reading all these stupid books like To Kill a Mockingbird, Julius Caesar, Great Expectorations, Catcher in the Rye. Those books suck, in my opinion, okay? I don't think freshmen in high school are ready to read those books, and I think the purpose of those books is to make children miserable and to hate reading. So, whereas Pinocchio is joyful. Those books are just sort of like misery for first year in high school students. That's the worst Charles Dickens book is Great Expectations. It's the worst one by far. It's just a terrible book. There's other books, a lot of the great stuff. So what happens is they make kids hate reading, and most kids never read another book again in their life after that. And I think that's exactly why it's designed to be the way it is. Okay, top 10 novels, I would say. Pinocchio, I hadn't read it in quite some time, and now that I'm older, now that I've raised children, I think I like it even more. I put it up there as number 9th all-time best books. Okay, if I had to rate the top 10 novels ever, Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, real short, you can read it in a weekend. Les Mis is super long. I prefer the audiobook and the movies, but it's still magnificent. And the 1985 soundtrack. Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky. The key thing is that Alyosha is the one who ends up living a good life that anybody could live. Quo Vadis by Sienkiewicz. Animal Farm in 1984. I put them both together by Orwell. They're both magnificent. Brave New World is sort of like the alternative viewpoint of destroying people through hedonism. The other ones are destroying them through brutality and censorship. Tale of Two Cities is great too. They all tie in. These 3 books all tie into the same idea of losing freedom. These are all novels only. Atlas Shrugged is magnificent. Helps you understand, truth versus sophistry and stealing other people's money through socialism. And you know what? Pinocchio, let's put it at number 9. But it's magnificent. It's joyful. I liked this one better than Don Quixote. It's because Don Quixote is like 900,000 pages. Pinocchio, is approximately, let's say, about 200 pages, 150 pages. You can get to the point fast. Da Vinci Code, I just loved it because it was so entertaining. It was so well written, even though I disagree with lots of things in the book. Okay, here's the one you want to know about. If you're going to listen to this in your car, this is a fantastic version. So this translation is by Mary Alice Murray, read by Susan O'Malley. And I'm telling you, the person who read the book, the narrator, was perfect. It was just perfect. I couldn't imagine it being better. They totally captured Pinocchio's personality as well as all the other characters. So here's Geppetto, the carpenter making Pinocchio. And the piece of wood sort of comes alive and it shocks him. Let me get to the slide here. Okay, here's just another side of, there's Pinocchio. And then here, right early in the book, we can see here, let me get myself out of the way here. Pinocchio here is running down the street. As soon as he's kind of got the blondish hair there, as soon as Geppetto had made him, Pinocchio ran away from home. Geppetto went chasing him and then yelled at him And then they actually arrested Geppetto, and Pinocchio bolts out the sides. And that was a kind of a common mischievous outcome for his early mischief. Okay, and then Pinocchio, he was a little bratty. He just suddenly came to life. He hadn't had a lot of moral training, you might say. And the talking cricket, in the book, he was just called the talking cricket. Later in the movie, it was Jiminy Cricket, which is sort of like Southern slang for Jesus Christ, almost like using a swear word expression, idiom. So Pinocchio got annoyed by the cricket moralizing and lecturing him. And in the actual book, he threw a mallet at him and smashed him against the wall. But then the cricket sort of came back to life as a ghost, as his conscience, maybe the conscience of Christianity, Christ in your mind. A lot of stupid stuff happens in the book, but it's funny. The way the book makes it happen, it all just makes sense. Pinocchio falls asleep. He was trying to warm his feet up by the coals, and he burned his feet off. Geppetto comes back, fixes his feet. And then, he's freezing cold. Geppetto does all kinds of nice things for him. In order to go to school, he has to get a primer book. Geppetto sells his coat to get the book for Pinocchio. Pinocchio's walking off to school with the book. And, of course, he gets into mischief. There's a puppet show. So here he is. He sells his primer, his school book, to some man so he can get money to go to the puppet show. When the puppets see him, they love him. They want him to be in the puppet show. He naturally is friends with them. He's a puppet with no strings attached. They think it's a miracle. The puppet master wants to use him to make money with the puppet show. And then the puppet master is another crazy, mean guy. And he wants to cook his food. He's out of firewood, so he's going to put the other puppet in there, Harlequin. And Pinocchio offers his own life. And the guy's so impressed by that, he sort of sets Pinocchio free, sets Harlequin free. And so, like I said, it's almost hard to describe this book. It's such a magnificent book. But I like this better than Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll, because this is more coherent. That one is more famous because it was written in the English language. And it does have a lot of great metaphors. But here's Pinocchio begging. He does all kinds of things wrong. He's lazy, he's a beggar, he's a sneak, all kinds of stuff. But he's still very lovable. And then eventually he falls for these two con artists, the fox and the cat, and they're trying to trick him out of all his possessions. He has a couple gold coins for his good deed. The puppet master had given him 5 gold coins. And then they almost eat all the food. They use up one of his gold coins. And then they want to get the rest of his gold coins. So they wear a disguise called the assassins. And they chase him in the woods. And he barely escapes. He goes to the blue-haired lady asking her for help. It's a little too late by the time she tries to help him, and they actually hang him up from a tree. But the idea is that he was hiding the gold coins in his mouth, and they figured if they hanged him and then when he died, he would spit out the gold coins and they would take them. The blue-haired lady sent some birds to get him down from there. Okay, and what I'm saying might not seem totally coherent, but in the book it all just works perfectly. And then the fox and the cat trick him into burying his coins in the ground. They tell him that his coins will grow from 4 coins now remaining into 2,000. And he's a young chump. He has no common sense at all. He believes them. And so he buries the coins, and of course they come by afterwards and dig them up and take them. So he reports it to the judge. The judge throws him in jail because the judge is friends with the cat and the fox. And so then, again, he gets out, he gets arrested. It's a long story how it happened. There were some boys had a fight from school. And so now Pinocchio's back to the slammer. Then he gets away again. He's starving, and he steals some grapes from this man's yard. The man sets him to work like a watchdog, and he actually helps catch the polecats that were stealing the man's chickens. I'm just showing you this art because I think it's just so beautiful. This is the art. Almost all this is by Roberto Innocenti. A couple of them are from other painters, but most of it is Roberto Innocenti. And there's the blue-haired fairy godmother lady who's wonderful, just like a mother, just like the Virgin Mary. And Geppetto's like Joseph, so it's almost like the parents of Jesus Christ in some sense. There's a lot of symbolism and metaphor here, but the bottom line is you love Pinocchio, and you understand how he gets into all this trouble. He's constantly getting in trouble. Then he's sick, and she wants to give him his medicine. He won't take it. So then these rabbits come in with a coffin ready to take him away to his grave, and that scares him, and then he takes his medicine. He keeps on screwing up and running away and getting into the wrong places, and then he comes back, and the blue-haired fairy lady has herself like in a grave, and he sees the grave, and he's crying and weeping over her, and she's actually watching from the side to judge his reaction, and she can tell that he really loves her and he's sorry. So then she feels sorry for him. Finally, they get him to go back to school. Here's Pinocchio at school, and he's trying hard to be good, But he gets a bad friend here, Lampwick, who brings him into trouble. And Lampwick gets him to go on this coach with the stagecoach man's like, kind of satanic and evil. And the boys are going to go to Playland, Funland, if you will, where they don't have to do any work. And Pinocchio rides on a donkey out there. Here's all the rest of the boys, trying to avoid having to do any work or be responsible or get educated. And they're in Playland. They're having lots of fun. Everything seems real fun. But the stagecoach guy is actually really evil. They made him even more evil in the movie. And the boys are all turned into donkeys. He sees his hair turn into a donkey. And then they get sold into some form of slavery. He tries to cover up his hair with his hat. Lampwick also is turned into a donkey. And then Pinocchio has to perform in a circus, and he's very sad. But the blue-haired lady sees him, and he sees her, and that gives him some hope. He breaks his ankle in the circus trying to jump through a hoop, and then they sell him to another man who wants to use his skin to make a drum, and he throws him off a cliff with a rock tied around his neck so he can, drown, and then he's going to take his skin to make a drum out of it. But the blue-haired lady sends a bunch of fishes, and don't ask me exactly how it happens, but they save him and turn him into a boy. Hey, where did the rest of my slides go? They save him and turn him into a boy. Okay. So finally he gets out, and then later on, now he has to try to find Geppetto. Geppetto's been searching for him, so he goes to search for Geppetto. And he's got to find his father. Okay, so he goes to search for Geppetto and find his father, and he's very noble and heroic, and he actually finds Geppetto, who had been swallowed by a giant shark-like fish. And this shark-like fish is so big it swallowed a boat, and there was food on the boat, and that kept Geppetto alive for a while inside of the shark. Okay, and Geppetto had now given up hope, and he's sort of ready to die. And Pinocchio cheers him up and energizes him, and they figure out a way to escape from the shark. Okay, so here's Pinocchio escaping from the shark. Okay, and that little sheep on there, symbolic of the sheep. Blue-haired lady is the one watching over him. So she's always there like a mama, fairy godmother. It's great. And Pinocchio's finally learned his lesson. So now he goes to work for a man. And, Geppetto's old, and so is the fairy godmother old. And they need their son to take care of him. And he gladly assumes that role. And he works for the man. He works extra long hours so he can get food and medicines for his mother and his father. Pinocchio becomes very good and responsible. And then he actually sees, he meets up with Lampwick. Lampwick had been sold into, workhorse slavery, and he dies. And he feels sad. He knows that could have been him very easily. And in the end, by his goodness and his bravery and his love, Pinocchio becomes a real boy. And the whole book is perfect. It's just beautiful. You love it. So anyways, I totally recommend it. I think it's a masterpiece. And it's not only a masterpiece, it's joyful, it's beautiful, it's funny. You're constantly laughing. Like I said, my Italian friends, they just love Pinocchio. They don't even like Pinocchio. They love Pinocchio. And I totally get it. It's magnificent. It really is an all-time masterpiece.